In this video, I want to talk to you about the Hayward Swim Clear 425 square foot cartridge filter. There's a couple of reasons why, as a pool owner, you might be interested to know about this filter. And I would say that this is the filter that I refer more pool owners to than any other filter. So why do I refer people to this filter? There's a couple specific reasons for it. Where do we start here? Okay, we'll start here. It has 4 filter elements. I like that design. Not all of them are designed the same way. Some filters will have one filter element, a small one, and that's all there is. Or some of them have, one gigantic one that's just gargantuan and hard to wrestle out there in service when you need to clean it. I like the 4 filter design because it's easier to handle, small filters. And I find that there's better cleaning quality with multiple filters. With a single filter, when you open up the filter, you can see that all the debris kind of accumulates in one spot, more or less. It's not like evenly distributed throughout the filter. That's why I like the quad filter design, because you're kind of giving it more spots that it wants to go. And I just find that that is a better quality filter. That's just been my professional experience. So that's one of the things that I like. What else do I like about this filter? So something very specific. This applies to a lot of pools. This filter is part of a line. There's a whole bunch of them. Yeah, this one is the C4030 model, and there's a C3030, there's a C5030, the 3030 smaller, the 5030 is bigger, and there's reasons to use them, for different reasons. But this one, I find that really applies to a lot of pools because it has a maximum design flow rate of 150 gallons per minute. We need to unpack this just a little bit here. So, in the world of cartridge filters, any size cartridge filter can be used on any size swimming pool. Maybe you knew that, maybe you didn't. There's a catch, and here's the thing: the smaller the filter, the more often you're going to need to clean it. So, if you had a pool that's 10,000 gallons, and we put a 200 square foot cartridge filter on that pool, that filter will become dirty after a 3-month time, or however long it is. Every single pool is unique. If we were to have a filter that's twice the size, 400 square feet of filtering material, you're going to be able to go twice as long before you need to open, service, clean the filter. So I like the advantage of having a larger filter because it enables me to just go longer in between cleaning cycles. And I don't necessarily recommend that you leave it to the very end, because it's not to your advantage to do so. It's to your advantage to clean your filter more often as opposed to less often, because it helps to reduce on the system inefficiencies, which you want. You want to reduce on restriction to flow. You do that by keeping your filter clean. So what else do I like about this filter? It's got quad filter elements, and it moves 150 gallons per minute. I mean, you know what? I'm not done on that 150 gallons per minute just yet. The thing about that is, any size cartridge filter does any size pool. If you buy a larger filter for a given size pool, you can go longer between maintenance cycles, but also we're increasing the maximum design flow rate. Most of the models, and the reason why you can use a cartridge filter on any size pool, like a sand filter doesn't work like that, because of the hydraulic design of a cartridge filter. It's such a superior hydraulic design. There's very little resistance to flow. There's no multi-port valves or slide valves or anything like that. And as a result, all of them, small, medium, big, all of them, they can all handle tremendously high flow rates. So I can take the smallest commercially available single element cartridge filter and pop that on with some of the most powerful pool pumps on the market. And sometimes that's okay. It's not necessarily to your advantage, but you do see that. There are a lot of pool pumps on the market that are going to exceed 120 gallons per minute. 120 gallons per minute is kind of like a magic number with 2-inch pipe. You're unlikely to reach that with 1.5 inch unless you're driving the bejesus out of it with a way too powerful pool pump. 2-inch pipe will hit 120 gallons per minute, and there's a ton of cartridge filters. That's the maximum design flow rate. But what if you have a robust pool, big pipes, a powerful pump, anything like that? All of these are going to exceed 120 gallons per minute. Enter the C4030, the first one of the models that has this higher flow rating of 150 gallons per minute. That's one of the reasons that I like this filter and why it applies to so many pools. If you got a big pool, well, you probably want to consider something like this, if not even larger. If you have a small pool and you're very efficiently designed with your hydraulic system, you might require something that has that higher maximum design flow rate. The truth be told, The goal isn't to really run super high flow rates. The goal is to run kind of low and slow. That's where your efficiency is at when it comes to filtration. So moving on, what else do I like about this filter? I would want you to know, and why am I referring this to so many people? Here's one of the things I love. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. Okay, so we got that. These are CPVC unions. When you buy a new piece of equipment, you're wondering, does it have all the parts and pieces that I need to connect this? And that's one of the things I do like about Hayward equipment, is that traditionally speaking, it does come with the stuff that you need. Basically everything that they've made post super pump wet end, which is just an 1.5 inch female thread, has had the stuff like that you're seeing here, these 2-inch slip by 2.5-inch spigot CPV connections. These are CPVC connections. These are really high quality. Gasket goes in. And there we go. We're ready to plumb into that, either with a 2-inch pipe straight into it or a 2.5-inch coupling on the spigot connection over top. And that spigot connection is important because most stuff doesn't have that. 2.5-inch pipe is kind of like a magic size pipe that I often find involved with pools which are chasing higher efficiency. When you want higher efficiency, how do you get there? Like, what is the actual mechanism by which you achieve more efficiency with a pool? Variable speed pump right off the top. But you can't just do that on a garden hose. I can't hook up a 3 horsepower variable speed pump to a garden hose and expect efficiency to happen there. There's balance, and you have to match things together, and the pump needs to be sized to the pool, but also sized to the equipment, things like that. The whole equation has to work together. When it comes to efficient hydraulic design, you want to have a low and slow approach, because fast moving water moves very inefficiently. There's a lot of turbulence and friction. You don't want those things. You don't need those things. You can avoid them with a variable speed pump and larger pipes. That's kind of the mechanism by which you achieve this. But your pool has to be, purpose built for this. It has to have larger pipes, or you're doing some sort of major renovation or remediation such that you could look at exploring increasing them. Aside from that, you're kind of stuck with what you have now. 1.5 inch, 2-inch, these are the common ones. But the thing is, you're still going to be moving a lot of water. Like, pumps are really powerful for swimming pools, and common flow rates for even like relatively small minor systems, 80, 100, 120 gallons per minute. Those are common numbers that you'll see for swimming pool systems. I don't like my equipment to operate right at the max of what it's capable of. If my filter is capable of 120 gallons per minute, I don't like running 122 gallons per minute through it as it's just day-to-day flow rate. That's not an ideal situation, neither from an efficiency nor a longevity perspective. When you have larger pipes, you move the same volume of water slower. That's how the whole thing works. And if you were to reduce that pipe suddenly in size, well, the water's going to have to increase in velocity in order to escape. So that's kind of how that mechanism works. We make the pipes larger, we move the water slower, we still pump a lot of water, but with a variable speed pump reduced in the RPM such that you're consuming for pennies on the dollar basically versus what a single speed pump would consume when a variable speed pump is running at the lower RPMs, achieving 15, 20, 25 gallons per minute of flow or so. Those are the numbers where you really achieve your maximum filtration quality and also experience your most cost savings from this major investment you made with a variable speed swimming pool pump. The 2.5-inch native ports on this are an advantage. Not all equipment has that. Yes, you could change like if I had a 2-inch port, I could put a coupling on there that's 2.5 inch in size and put a reducer bushing on and make the connection. I like the native 2.5-inch port connection with this. And even better, I like that it's also a slip 2-inch connection. No 1.5 inch involved here at all. If you've got any pool equipment and you're looking at it right now because you're watching this video learning about pools, and you have 1.5 inch ports on that equipment, and you're like, mine has that. There's a lot of you out there. This is just major efficiency loss. That's something older that could be very likely improved by exploring increasing pipe size. It is not something that you can do on every pool. I receive emails from this because I talk about this subject. It's complex and technical and nuanced, and I get people saying, hey, I'm going to increase my pipe size. I got an above ground pool. It's got 1.25 inch plumbing. I'm going to increase to 2-inch plumbing or 2.5 inch plumbing. It's like hard stop. That's not how this works. This whole thing is made together, and there's, limitations on this in terms of the returns that you can get increasing pipe size. You have to have a pool which is built and can facilitate the flow that you're asking it to provide, because we have safety considerations, things like that. The amount of flow that you have, the no suction line in a swimming pool should have more than 6 gallons or 6 feet per second of flow at any given time. You probably don't know that's a thing. You should not have any suction lines. So it's a main drain or skimmer or anything like that. And there should not be any more than 6 feet per second of flow through that pipe. What is that in PVC pipe in gallons per minute? 1.5-inch pipe is 38 gallons per minute. 2-inch pipe, about 65 gallons per minute. It's not all that much. So these flow rates and the water velocities and the suction amounts, the limitation of the maximum design flow rate for your filter, for even the skimmers and the main drains themselves, all of these things need to work together. And it's pretty touch and go when you get out there and you just start having, I'm going to change this, I'm going to install that. Equipment like this is primarily available through brick and mortar pool and spa professionals, and it's that way for a reason. It's for your benefit, because truly, as a pool and spa professional, the average person isn't really qualified to do all this stuff, and nor should they. Stuff like a split flange filter tank could be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So you wouldn't want to monkey around with something like that, and that's why professionals exist. I'm not making the statement, oh, this is beyond you, you couldn't handle this. You probably could. If you're a handy person and you're technical and you know stuff and you work on things, yeah, you probably could do it. But it's just the nature of the industry doesn't really lend itself towards that. Kind of most manufacturers, most industry professionals, kind of all steering people towards not purchasing things on the internet, talking to a brick and mortar specialist when you buy something, such that you can have a conversation kind of like what you're experiencing just a little bit of here, where you're learning about the equipment. And you can't learn it all from me, because I'm not at your pool. I don't know what your pool looks like. Every pool is unique. There's fiberglass and gunite and vinyl liner, and there's ones that are in Florida, and there's ones that are in the Arctic North where I live. There's a host of differences, and they all come into play. What you do in Texas with a pool is not what you do in Vancouver with a pool. These are just different things. They're built fundamentally differently. You care for them differently. They're made out of different materials and using different technical processes. There's so many individual components that all come together to make the unique experience, which is your swimming pool. And that's why there is no replacement for professionals standing in your backyard, seeing your pool, observing. He or she knows your area. That's a big part of it. Your specific geographical area will have interesting and unique aspects to it. You could have expansive soil conditions, or basically live in a floodplain, or things like that you wouldn't be able to learn from me, because I don't know to relate that information to you, because I don't know what you're dealing with. So when you buy pool equipment, primarily you should be buying it from a pool and spa specialist. I do endorse that. So we talked about the connections at 2-inch and 2.5. We talked about the quad filter design. We talked about the maximum design flow rate of 150 gallons per minute being a superior number. And in general, just something that I would say is this is a pretty large cartridge filter. Unless you have an enormous swimming pool with just constant pool parties one after the other, a filter like this you can install, and you could go months before you need to clean the filter. Since I mentioned that, and I suppose that's something that we could talk about here really quickly. So you want to get one of these, or maybe you got one. How do I know when to clean the filter? Because there's a really common question. You probably can't see it, but maybe or maybe not. So we have a dial here, and if you have one of these, you've got one for yourself, you can see. So the dial uniquely is different than other pressure gauges. There's the black arrow, which is kind of the normal one, which you would have, but you also have a red and a green arrow. So what's the deal here? So we've just installed this filter. We start up the system. It all primes up. We purge the air. Everything's running good. What does this system run at? Let's say 10 PSI. So then we would see 10 where the black arrow is. The black needle would lift and hold on 10 PSI. This is significant because this is how you know what those other two are for. That represents your clean operational pressure, because we've just installed the filter. It's brand new, it's clean, it's at 10 PSI. 10 PSI is your clean operational pressure. Take this little dial and turn it so the green is over top of the black, both on 10 PSI, because 10 PSI is your clean operational pressure. And now, when the pressure rises, when that black needle continues to rise and eventually touches the red, The red indicates that it's time to clean your filter. At 425 square feet of filter media, it's very large in capacity. It's large in terms of the maximum design flow rate that it can handle. It's large in terms of the pipe connections and availability of a 2.5-inch native port connection on this. This is just a good filter. This filter fits on a lot of swimming pools. It provides efficiency for pools small, medium, and large. There's a lot of reasons why a lot of pool owners would be interested in the C4030 cartridge filter from Hayward, and that is ultimately why it is the most commonly recommended filter that I experience in my consulting business. Something else that I like about this cartridge filter in particular comes down to the split flange connection and this little doohickey right here, which is the mechanism by which you clamp the band clamp closed. If there were a complaint about cartridge filters in general, it's that opening and cleaning them can be a laborious process. And some of them have kind of like a less clear-cut mechanism here. There's springs and other stuff involved, and that can be confusing to the average pool owner. That's something that I like about this one here, is that it's user-friendly. There's really not a lot of ways to get this wrong. And that's important because not getting it wrong is a safety consideration. And so that's why this is just another one of the reasons why I like recommending this filter to my clients. Even the band clamp itself being split into 3 like that, I appreciate. And I know there's other pool technicians out there that appreciate, because there's some of them which are a bear to open up, and to get them seated back around, and you got to have 3 arms to wrestle the thing into place because it's got to be just right. This one's actually really, really easy as far as it goes in terms of cartridge filter design with a split flange design with a band clamp. I like this design that splits in 3 places like that, and it's got a really thick flange to sit on top of, so it seats easily as I'm putting it in place, and I'm not, this side falls off as I get this side on, and then I'm back on this side again. This is actually a superior design to most of the cartridge filter band clamps that I deal with. Another feature that I like about this cartridge filter in particular relates to the drainage port. So spin this guy around here. You can probably see it down there. It might be out of the shot. There's a plug down in there in the bottom, and it's fairly large. And there's a number of reasons why you would need to access that, for like winterization of a pool, for example, during which time you're going to remove that 1.5-inch plug, and there's a deluge of water and filthy sludge and all the crud in the bottom of your filter all comes flying out of there, and it definitely floods whatever area you're in, like a pool shed or something like that. And I like this filter design because that's a standard 1.5-inch female thread. So you could take an 1.5-inch PVC male adapter with some thread sealant on there and put it in place. And you could actually hard plumb in a connection on that. Doesn't apply to every pool, but the pools who need this, it's important, because if the filter has a really small or proprietarily unique connection size or threaded nipple on it, you can't fit any standard fittings on it, so you can't really plumb onto it in a reliable kind of way. Whereas with an 1.5-inch threaded female connection, I can reliably make a connection to that with rigid PVC fittings, plumb in a drain line with a valve in it or something like that, and it's time to winterize the pool. I start to decommission the filter here, and then I just go ahead and open that drain line. Instead of just having the deluge of water all over the floor, now I have a hard plumb drain line. That is a little thing, but it's a nice thing and something I like about this filter. So is that it? Just buy this filter. This is the best one out there. There's nothing else that's good. Not at all. There's so many options, and there's a ton of really good options as well. It just so happens that this one fits the bill for a lot of the stuff that I'm looking for when I'm making recommendations to pool owners about what would benefit them for their swimming pool. And time again, I come back to this series because it offers a lot of benefits to swimming pool owners. If you found this information helpful, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you can check out my website, swimmingpoolsteve.com.